Hello and welcome to Enlightened Empaths, your community for the spiritually awakened, where we discuss, explore, and connect with fellow empaths, healers, intuitives, and seekers. Hello, empaths. Hope your week is off to a great start as we are heading into wrapping up 2024. I know we always say this every year. Every year you hear, where did this year go? But it really does feel like time is speeding up.
It does. And when you look back over your shoulder, you realize how many little things happened, how many big things. We're not the same people we were a year ago. And we're just going to continue to grow and evolve into the new year, which I love.
Yes, me too.
So we were going to start this episode with just a kind of a recap of some of the episodes that we talked about over the years, because we've had such a wide range of guests and so many different topics that I don't know about you, Samantha, but I forget. We do them. I'm excited about them. We read them and then we move on to the next thing, which is great because there's variety. But then when you look back, it's like, wow, we really talked to some cool people.
I know. We've been very lucky to make the connections we have made and share their wealth of information with listeners.
You know, we started out the year with Dr. Bradley Nelson and the Emotion Code. And so many of us as empaths have realized that connection between what our physicality, our health, our wellness, and our emotions. And he was just such a nice, kind man. He was so genuine.
Yeah, he really was. And I love his books. I love his work and how he makes you think about your vibrations and what you are really, what your energy is really bringing to the table of what you're trying to achieve and learn in this life.
Right. Around that same time period, we had Steve Farrell come on, the co-founder and worldwide executive director of Humanity's Team, which is a nonprofit helping people awaken to the interconnectedness that we all share. So both coming at it from a different way, but both giving that message of look within and see how you can be of part of it all.
So important.
You know, we had Dr. David Clark about ending chronic pain, and Summer McStravick talked about flow dreaming. So we've had all of these people come on, and that was early in the year. We really started a strong thing with health and wellness. And I know you and I had talked about that was one of our goals for 2024 was to take better care of ourselves.
Yeah. Remember Dr. Clark talking about how he got started on that path where he had the woman with the obstructed bowel?
Yes.
And she hadn't gone to the bathroom in a long time.
Oh.
And he met a psychiatrist in the elevator of his hospital who was like, send her to me.
Yeah.
And it worked. She went to the bathroom. But I know that's, it's a different story. But I know that it's an interesting way to get involved in this work. But it was such a powerful reminder to me of the mind-body connection.
Well, in a recent episode when we were talking about chakras, and you mentioned that if your third eye is overstimulated, it can lead to headaches, or if you're prone to headaches, that might be a chakra. It's that mind-body connection and things that we never think about, or your lower back is really painful, or you having issues about security and stability. We're not talking that all illnesses we're not negating the need for medical care or any of those things. But the more you pay attention to your body, I really believe it's trying to tell us and help us out.
I do too. And I think Dr. Clark's work shows that. The Body Keeps Score is another great book that shows that. Dr. Bernie Siegel's Love, Medicine, and Miracles, fantastic example. All science-backed, which I think is always fascinating. Having Summer on was trippy for me, Denise, because I remember when I started on this spiritual journey back in the early 2000s, I would listen to Hay House Radio on my computer. Mm-hmm. And Summer was always on. Do you remember that?
Yeah, that was way back in the day. Yes.
Yeah. And I always loved her energy. She was so upbeat. Flow dreaming was her thing. And I just really liked her show. And then, podcasting came on and now she still has her podcast there. But it was great to get a chance to just meet her and see her and tell her what her work had meant to me over the years.
And again, someone that we both listened to with I don't, maybe reverence is too strong, but I would listen to those old shows and just be so captivated that there was someone talking about what I loved, what I was interested in, what I wanted to learn about. She was so normal.
So normal, so kind.
Yes.
So
one of our most popular and a couple of episodes that we got so much feedback about were we did a couple shows on healing the inner child.
Yeah.
And those weren't easy to do. They weren't easy to record. They weren't easy to read about. And because that's really ripping the Band-Aid off for many, many people, and myself included. I think that when you really start to dig deep into that stuff, but the theme, we didn't know this at the time, but what became a prevalent theme over the course of this year, the more and more people I spoke with and interacted with, they were doing that work. They were working on the ancestral healing. They were working on that inner child work. So there was something prime in the energy of 2024 to finally look in that mirror and say, I need to take care of me and that little person that's inside of me.
Yeah, exactly. And it might be a good one to revisit in the new year, because I do think you're right. We got the most emails on that one. On those, we did 2, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. It's important work, and it's just a reminder that there is that little child inside of us who needs that time, attention, and love. And it's up to
never
us
too
to do it.
late.
Never too late.
No. Or if you're working with children, you have your own children, or you're a caretaker for. But, and I shared this, I remember this vividly because it's one of my go-to things, is I had done work with a woman years and years ago who was quite advanced in age. And she did inner child work in her, I want to say she was in her late 70s. And it changed her remaining time on the planet. She found a sense of peace that she had never felt before.
Wow.
And then we had dear George Lizzo's on. I mean, that man just shines a bright light.
And he has more energy than 5 people put together. Do you know he has another new book out?
He's a very prolific writer. He is, but his whole book on Greek mythology and the gods and the goddess and all, it was fascinating and just very, very confident about his connection with that. And what I loved was that's his heritage. That's where his lineage is. That's where, so he had an intrinsic connection to that as well.
Yeah. And I loved his idea that he had of touring all the Greek temples.
Oh.
I think it's so fun to plan a trip with a purpose.
There's a cathedral that I want to go to that has a family lineage to it. And I've been to it once before when I was, I think, 19. And I think that just when we're able to connect in such sacred space with churches, cathedrals, and you can find it in nature as well. You can find it at temples. You can find it but immersing yourself in the energy of that place, I think that it exemplifies our connection with divine so much.
I agree. But, one of my goals is to go to all the Marian sightings.
Oh.
Uh-huh. I need to win 2 lotteries, because I can't just go to Greece. She's appeared in France and Fatima, and she's appeared in Medjugorje, and she's appeared in Japan. And so I don't know how I would do it, but it's a goal I would love to accomplish someday. So I just loved the idea of him, temple hopping, I think he called it, right?
Yeah. And probably one of my favorite episodes was Dr. Stephen Farmer, when he talked about earth energy, earth medicine, because I've followed him for decades. I have his decks, I have his books, his connection with animals, with nature, and again, just a regular person, easy to talk to. See, that's something that when we interview people, a lot of times we chat with them before we start interviewing and then after we finish, and we get to just have a chat that isn't about the interview. I am eternally grateful for some of these people that I've listened to for years, just to be able to talk to them and realize that they they go through the same exact things that all of us do, with questions, with doubts, with wondering about their work. I think
Imposter
that's,
syndrome, all of it.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. The connection with and he was funny. So having a sense of humor about Juju is always a good plus.
Yeah, I agree. And it was just, I have his children's animal oracle deck that I told him I used with my kids every day on the way to school.
Yeah.
They loved to pull a card. We kept it in the glove box, and just to be able to look them in the eye and tell them what that meant to us, that was a treat for me.
I felt like he was really humble about how accomplished he was. He
Oh,
is.
totally. Totally. I don't think he does this work for himself.
No.
I really do think it is about the work.
Yeah. Very, very much service oriented.
Yeah.
Then we had, remember Dr. Kim Darmo with Stepping Out of the Matrix.
Yeah, that one changed a lot for me, because when she talked about just surrendering to the matrix, like she was saying how sometimes you have to decide, like, are you in the matrix? Are you going to leave the matrix? Are you stuck in the matrix? And if you're stuck in the matrix, why not just surrender to it and have fun and just be like, yeah, this is all a game.
Right.
That really switched things for me in terms of manifesting. And it's when I started learning about micro manifesting, and that's been a game changer.
Right. And that is such an intricate part of your book, with the manifesting, that you can manifest, co-create with your guides, with your team, with your ancestors. But I think that the manifesting and the micro manifesting shows that we did, I hope, helped people realize that they're more of an active participant in manifestation than they may have realized before.
Exactly. You know what I've been studying? So I've been studying for like 5 years now, the subconscious mind. But I read this thing in a book just this week. Do you ever read something where you know it, but to see it in print, it hits home in a different way?
Yes, it
I don't know.
validates. Yes.
Yeah. And it was saying that your subconscious mind knows no one else except you. Your subconscious mind is aware of a universe of one. So whenever you criticize someone else, whenever you judge someone else, when you put someone else down, when you judge the world harshly, your subconscious reads that as a criticism of you, a judgment of you, a rejection of you.
So this is interesting to me, because I finished up that class last fall about the ancestral healing and genealogy and stuff. And one of the things that I had come across, which really got my mind turning, was that when you do that, the question was, how do I know if this is a past life or if I'm connecting with an ancestor? Because, sometimes you'll do a past life regression and you'll recognize someone from this lifetime, or you can go back and do past life work to do the healing work that you might not have been able to do with someone that's in your present life, in this here and now. But what it came out to is that when you're in a regression, it is completely about you. It's all self-centered. You're seeing, you're observing, you're part of it. But when you're connecting with an ancestor or someone else and you're feeling that feedback from them, that's a completely different thing. So I thought that was interesting.
That is interesting.
Then I remember you brought this one up, and I had never heard about it. Remember when we talked about stress languages and how,
Yeah.
And that was interesting, because I think, if anything, this has been a stressful year for a hell of a lot of people.
Yeah.
Personally, professionally, politically, global. Prayers that we're going to move forward into more peace and civility in the coming year. But I think with the stress languages, and then we talked about embracing worthiness, they kind of go together. That once you realize what your triggers are, you're able to say, why am I letting this touch me? I deserve better than that.
Exactly. It all comes down to self-worthiness.
It does.
If your subconscious is a universe of one, and it acts like basically an echo, just echoing back what you tell it to create your reality, and you don't have self-worth and you're putting yourself down or other people down, that's just what you're going to create in your reality.
Yeah. And I mean, these are just a few. Chaz Ebert, her book, It's Time to Give Effect. She was just lovely. Just lovely, lovely energy and kind. So maybe part of this is maybe you missed some episodes or you'd like to revisit them. But when you see how many times we showed up, it's kind of mind boggling.
I don't, Denise, I don't think we've ever run a repeat.
I think we did one the first year.
Okay.
We did what we reran the John Holland episode the very first year we started doing this, and that would have been what, 2017?
Yeah.
This is 4 to 6 episodes, roughly a month. So there's a little bit if you're bored or walking the dog or thinking, oh, I really need to revisit what George said about mythology, or I'd love to do that inner healing work. Just go back in the archives and it's all right there for you. Now, business-wise, so that was what we did together and as our community of listeners. But I mean, holy shit, you had a huge year with launching a second book. Was it different with your second book rather than your first?
It was different for a lot of reasons. This book was really, really close to my heart because I'm so passionate about manifesting and really learning to love yourself and your faith and your spirituality and connecting to your guides and angels. It was different because I'd been there, done that. So I kind of knew what to expect with having to go on other shows and all of that. So that made it a little bit easier. I got to travel a lot to promote the book, which was very, very fun. I talk about it in my December newsletter. My sister threw me a book release party. And Denise, you know how much I was dreading that because I don't like being the center of attention. And it was very instructive to me to recognize that it wasn't that I was the center of attention. It was that there's a lot of lovely people in my life who just wanted to celebrate with me. And so that was humbling, but also educational, like it's okay to shine your light.
And wonderful to have that opportunity. Well, this is kind of morbid, but not really. While you're alive to enjoy it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because usually it's a celebration of life when people come together to celebrate someone or to reminisce or to remember and the fact that they all came because they're proud of you. They love you. They're excited that because the other aspect of, we both know you worked your ass off to get that book out.
Yeah. This is true. And I got to record the audio version. That was trippy because I wasn't allowed to with the Awake Dreamer. And boy, did we hear from listeners that they wanted to hear it in my voice because they're used to hearing me on the podcast in their ears, And I write like I speak. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, very much so.
Not
yes.
Like very educational. I'm right, like I'm just telling you a story. And so people, I think, can hear my tone and inflection and when they read it and they wanted to hear it that way. So I really pushed hard. I mean, I set a boundary, Denise. I was like, I'm narrating this book. And I had to audition to narrate my own book.
Which is so weird to me.
So weird to me, too. It was kind of a pain because they picked a studio near them. So I had to drive like 5 hours and take a week off to record it. But it was very surreal sitting in that studio and reading my words. It was emotional and it was lovely.
I prefer, if I'm listening to an audio, that it is in the author's voice. It hits me differently. I feel more of a kinship and a connection to the words, what's being read, but also to the author that wrote it. Because there's a different passion and resonance that comes through when someone's reading their own work.
Yeah, I got emotional at a couple of places, and I said to the team outside the booth, I was like, "Ooh, I'm so sorry. I can redo that." And they were like, "No, that's good. Like, keep that in." So I hope that is. I don't know. Cher just came out with a memoir. I adore Cher. Mm-hmm. I wonder if she's going to narrate her book because that would be great. I love her voice.
She has a beautiful voice.
Yeah, I was hoping she'd name her memoir Snap Out of It, but she didn't.
And if anyone has, and this is just, I'm going to give you another little boost here, is that your new website looks fantastic. you've really rebranded yourself in 2024, which is, it looks
Thank,
good.
thank
But
you. Trying to get it up to date.
but doesn't that match with it being a year of transition in so many ways? The book, the changing
Yeah,
what your
I know.
offerings were, taking a relationship to a different level. You really finishing it out with, okay, and now this is the new me that's coming into the world.
Yeah, it's very, very exciting. I feel the same about you. First of all, everyone in my life knows you, even though like my kids haven't actually met you, but they've already asked me. I told you, what are Denise's 2025 goals? Because, guys, every year Denise sets these insane, amazing, cool goals, and she does them. And it's just been so inspiring to watch that. And you would set a goal to do the mentorship program, and you did it.
Right. But when I look back over this year, when you start to see the numbers of where your hours went and what we're talking about right now, all this recording and editing and writing books, and it's that proverbial non-billable hours stuff. This is all the stuff. It takes a lot of time and energy and effort. And I'm not saying that like, oh, poor me with my hand on my forehead. But I think that that's another aspect because so many people will say, oh, I want to do what you're doing. I want to do this work. And they'll say, I've been in groups where they've sent that to you. So that's the other part of this is all the behind the scenes things that allow it to come in. And when I did hundreds of readings this year, I did regressions, I did the mentor program, and that new class was really a learning curve for me because I had to look in my own mirror a lot with that one. And that was, it was it was the advanced version of the inner child classes.
Are you talking about the ancestor class?
Yeah, the
Yeah.
embracing the present through healing the past. And that was a 12-week program where we really did a lot of deep, heavy lifting. But it aligned with the feeling that's very prevalent of those of us who feel like we're the ones who airdropped in to say, okay, I'll do it. I'll be the one that changes the patterns or shifts the paradigms in the family line or decides to parent in a different way or becomes the first to go to college or whatever it might be. If you're the one that's doing it differently, this has been an amazing year to really step into that.
Yeah, that's true. And I do think we've seen that in a lot of our listeners from their stories and feedback where
Right.
they're really recognizing that they're doing the work. And it's not easy, but it's important.
And this is so, I mean, we're mediums. We know there's something more. We know that there's a spiritual signature and thumbprint that connects each of us as an individual to the divine. But when we were doing that, and I started to see them as people, as it changed it for me. The things that we did this one exercise at the beginning where we looked at all the traumas that might not have been from familial impact, but genocides, wars, poverty, famine, all of that stuff that happened globally during different time periods and how it could impact these ancestors that we had that could have been passed down in our lineage. So the more you look back, it allows you to look forward. It's the weird way to look at it.
No, that's so true. And it's not even back or forward. It's all now.
Exactly. And I think that sometimes we get so caught up in what am I doing next? What's my next goal? What am I at that we forget it? And this ties in beautifully with your manifesting. If you're not present where you are right now, you can't get clear on what you want to bring into your life.
No, that's so true.
Now, personally, we both had some big, because we had, we always do the word of the year and things, but there's stuff you can never expect. I had a few friends pass this year, which was deeply sad. When you have someone that you've known a long time and then you think of them and you realize that they're not here, you can still talk to them as a medium and they'll let you know they're okay, but it's different than picking up the phone.
True. And we lost some listener friends.
Yes, we did. We
Which
did.
was very, very sad.
Yes. And it's, actually Rod, we did an episode with Rod and
Yeah.
he funny and hell of a medium, had the crystal shop in the Midwest. So I guess embrace the people in your life and make the most of what you're doing, because it is tenuous.
Yeah, it really is.
One of my things too this past year has been to, and it's been 3 steps forward, 2 steps back, to focus more on health and wellness practices for myself and basic self-care, like quiet walks without anything in my ears, or eating less sugar, or trying to have a more consistent sleep schedule. Probably the biggie was trying to set boundaries, that's an uphill battle all the time, but making a little progress. What about you?
Yeah, I had set goals that were in alignment with that, and I think I've definitely done that with my personal fitness routines. The time alone I have not had this year. I've just been so busy and so pulled in so many different directions that to carve out time for myself has been really hard, which is ironic because I had so many beautiful changes this year. You know, I got engaged, which was just one of the best days, and I'm so excited for all that's coming with that. But I also became an empty nester in August when my youngest left for college, and I thought I'd have all this time, and I don't.
No.
So we'll see if I have more time in the new year. But it's, you know, I knew it was going to be a busy year with launching the book and everything else, and planning a wedding and getting my house ready to sell. So there's just been a lot going on. You guys might hear drilling and banging going on in the background because I'm having some stuff updated before I sell it. So there's been people in and out of my house for what, 3 months, Denise?
It's been a long time. Yes.
Painters, all sorts of fun stuff. But yeah.
Okay.
You took a trip. Did you share this on the show where you took a trip with nothing in your ears?
Yes. That's generally become my MO when I take long RV trips by myself, is I'll just drive with nothing and I'll just have a view out the window. I really enjoy it. I always check in with a friend and with my sons when I'm traveling alone. So, but then I'll almost make a game of how long I can go without talking to someone else. I'll talk to the dogs, but that's a whole telepathy thing. They don't really use their words very well. But yeah, I did the road trip last winter, and went to some places I had never been before, which I always love. And it's very reflective. Some people cringe at the thought of traveling alone or traveling in silence, but it gives you space and time with yourself that is very different. So that's one of my goals for 2025, is to integrate more off-grid time.
I think there is something about that. When I drove those 5 hours away to record the audio version of Heavenly Alliance, the second time I had to go back, I went by myself and I was kind of dreading it, like, ugh, I don't want to do this drive by myself. But I actually ended up loving it. There is something about being in a car alone on a road where there's, you can't text.
Right.
Because you're driving. There's no laundry to do. There's no dogs or cats to let in or out or feed. You know what I mean? There's nothing but you and your thoughts. So it is a perfect opportunity to really come back to that home base.
And especially if you're in a location that's outside of your normal routine, if it's a new view out the window, if it's a different landscape, if it's a different geographical area, I think that personal opinion, I think that it helps build new neural pathways, and it helps. For me, it always clears my mind, and that's when I get a lot of really good downloads on, oh, I never thought of that before. So it's a great way to do it. Yeah.
It's so true.
It is, but it's not for everybody, but it is fun. But when I went last August, I did the time where I go down east in Maine, way down almost to Canada, and I completely shut it off. No internet, no anything for a week. And I need more of that. I need more just unplugged time. So especially, have you been reading about, AI is going to really explode in 2025. And that goes with the Pluto and Aquarius influence.
I know. I think it's like anything new that comes into our world. There's going to be great things from it and not so great things. I was talking to a teacher friend of mine and I said, "How are you grading essays with Chat GPT? Like how are you doing that?" And she said it's really hard. And it's hard to keep the motivation and the passion when you know probably 80% of these papers are written by AI. I just think that's a hard aspect of it. I think there's a lot of good that's going to come from it. So I'm just trying to focus on that. I don't understand. This thing went viral on TikTok where you can go to Chat GPT and ask it to create a 5-year life plan for you. Did you ever see that?
No.
You can say my goal in 2025 is to blah 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 blah, but you want to be as specific as possible. And you type it all into the search prompt on ChatGPT. And then you say create an action oriented, 1, 3 or 5-year plan for me to implement this. And people are saying it's pretty accurate.
I had shared with you that I had recorded a thing on a platform with someone recently, and instead of an audio recording, I was sent a transcript it was summarized by AI of what the conversation was with this person. It was frighteningly accurate. So I think, though, embracing it with curiosity and knowledge is much, much better than embracing it with fear.
Yeah.
Because it's here, it's happening, it's not going away. And you know who I worry about, though? And this is truly in my heart. I worry about some of those kids I used to work with who they ended up in entry-level jobs that many people might find too repetitive or boring or whatever, but they had a purpose, they had a sense of self, they had a place to go. And I worry about those disappearing or being outsourced to artificial.
Yeah, that's true.
So
hopefully there'll be programs in place, but I know what you're saying.
Yeah. And I think for 2025, when you brought up I always set a goal and stuff, and some of them are just batshit crazy things. Like, why am I doing this? So I need to figure out, but it has to be not with work. It has to be something different to learn. It's always about learning something new, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah. Or transforming something or inviting something in.
Yes. So with moving forward, I don't know what my next foolish venture will be that I want to learn in 2025, but I'm working on it. So I'll keep you and the girls updated.
Okay, please do. Because I'm really struggling with I know the practical goals that I'm going to have in 2025, but I like to have esoteric goals as well. And I'm trying to figure out what those are going to be. I like to have things I want to learn more about or research. And I keep coming up with, I don't know, not a block.
For me, it's easier to make a business goal or a work goal or a financial goal because it's, okay, this is my goal. This is how I task analyze. These are the steps, similar to what I could probably have Chat GPT tell me how to do that. But I like that. I like that process, finding the steps, crossing it off the list. That logical part of my brain really thrives. So being more consistent with business goals and getting the newsletter out or showing up or making sure that the podcast comes out every week, every Monday morning, those are all things that are part of our routine and part of our life. But I think that when we look at how are we going to grow and evolve as a person, as an individual that has nothing to do with anything but us, what challenge do you need to put into your life that's going to say, holy shit, look what I did this year?
Well, a goal that would just be for me personally. Do you mean for fun, pleasure, education, personal growth?
Something that would really align with your core self. So several years ago now, it was, I'm going to learn to ride a motorcycle so that I can put a scooter on the back of my RV when I'm traveling. I'll be able to do that. I took the motorcycle class. I got the scooter. I did all those things. And it was a personal goal to do that, but it was also, there was a means to an end. But it proved to myself that I was capable of it. Believe it or not, most of the people in the class were not older women. Anyway, there's been different things over the years that they've been something that was a little bit out of my comfort zone to do. But then on the other side of it, such a sense of self and accomplishment for doing it. I think that's where the growth happens.
I do too. What keeps popping into my mind, my kids were home a couple of weeks ago and it was unusually warm. And I took the whole weekend off because they were home. Something a lot of, if you have podcasts and your own business and all the stuff Denise and I do, you tend to work 6 to 7 days a week. So I had cleared the whole weekend, which was great. And we went to the beach both days and I bought a book. We went to a bookstore Friday night and I bought a book. And Denise, I read the book on Saturday and Sunday because we were at the beach for 4 to 6 hours each day.
Oh,
and
nice.
It was the first time I'd done that in so long. And I was like, I've got to get back to having those open-ended days with nothing in them. That does not sound like a goal.
Oh, I think it is. I think that's right along with the off-grid time, because when I do that and shut down, it takes me a couple days to even get in the zone and realize, oh, what do I do with myself? I need to be doing something. How do I keep? That's a hard one.
Yeah, it is. It is. And for me, it goes back to inner child stuff. Because when I was growing up, my mom always gave us so many chores. I mean, we were like her little maids. And I can still remember hearing the garage door and kind of my heart going, oh, did I vacuum everywhere? Did I empty the dishwasher? Did I set the dinner table? And there's still that inside of me, even though I haven't been in that childhood home in years and I'm, in charge of my own home. If I'm sitting on the couch at 4 o'clock, I feel guilty.
Yeah.
I do. Do you have that?
Oh, I'll jump up some. I can't be idle.
No. So I guess that is one of my personal goals is, giving myself permission to just
relax,
lay like broccoli. Yeah. Just do nothing.
I was thinking about, bucket list kind of stuff. And because of that, I was thinking about, wouldn't it be cool to do a road trip to hidden hot springs?
Ooh, yeah.
Not the big ones that everybody goes to and there's a parade of stars, just the hidden places. So that's kind of one of my things is I'm going to do some exploring about hidden places this year.
That's
this coming
really
year.
Cool. My sister went to Sedona this last year, in the spring of this year, with her sister-in-laws, and she said it was amazing and the energy was palpable. So I would love to do something like that too.
Yeah, you have Sedona, you have Mount Shasta, you have these places, but there's other places where those exist that could be closer to home.
Well, how do you research it?
Oh, you just dig around on that old internet. You can find anything in there.
I guess we could just ask AI.
We could. Plan me a road trip, please. I'm going to have to give AI a voice in my head, I'm sure, similar to the dog voices. Do your animals have their own voice?
Oh, yes.
Okay, good.
Oh, yes. Lily's was always kind of bratty, but sweet.
Yes.
Okay, so are you going to pick a word of the year?
I am. Now, last year, my word of the year was create, and I integrated forms of that into some passwords that I change every year with my word of the year. That's a great way to do it, by the way, is if you have a word and you're like, I'm not going to remember my word because I usually don't. So I started integrating it into things that I do like an email password or something that I would switch out every now and again. And I did create a lot. I created a lot. I did a lot of things that I had put on the out of lack of time or energy or resources I hadn't gotten to over several years. And I really made those a priority, and I created more ease in my life by finally getting them done. So I really liked that word.
I love that. Because you created a lot. You created a lot of physical, tangible things like your courses and mentorship program, but you also created other things like space in your year to do that work.
Right. And that's I think is really hard, that we do service work. We want to help people. We want to help raise the vibration. And many of our listeners are in that same place, that we'll do so much for everyone else. This coming year, I hope that we can start to put ourselves at the front of that line and not feel we have to justify taking the time or to recharge our batteries or to read a book on the beach or to go and sit in a hot spring in the middle of nowhere. I think we need to really work on that. I know I do.
I know I do too. Yeah. And I think if no one's going to give us permission.
But are you going to start a new book this year or a new project, do you think? Or are you waiting to see how it unfolds?
I've got a lot of ideas in my head that I really am having fun playing with. I feel like I need more time to focus on that. So what I'm really going to push with my editor is my crystal oracle deck.
Good.
Yeah, I think so.
No, but the new crystal oracle deck, ooh, that sounds fun. And I mean, holy shit, you can't have any hangups about how much you know about crystals.
No. But what I don't like is the crystal decks that are out there. It really pisses me off. It'll be like a picture of blue lace agate and it'll say, you need to communicate more. And I'm like, well, that doesn't really tell you anything about blue lace agate. And I don't want to pull a card that says you need to communicate more.
Right.
I want to pull a card that teaches me something about that crystal, that shows me why it's appearing in my day that day, but also inspires and uplifts and motivates me.
Beautiful.
So
and,
that's what I'm hoping to work on.
And isn't that exactly what we want to do with our lives? We want to feel inspired and motivated and upbeat and happy, and that we're really honoring and fulfilling what we came here to do and experience.
Yes, exactly.
Well, it's been a hell of a good year, hasn't it?
It really has been. Thanks in part mainly to our listeners.
Yes.
We love hearing from you guys. We love communicating and connecting with you all. And a big thank you to all the guests that have come on the show. It's just such a joy and a pleasure to do this podcast with you, Denise. I just love our friendship. I love our connection. And I'm so happy that we're able to continue doing this work together.
Me too. It really is such a gift. And it's amazing to me every time that we still are going strong. And I appreciate all the feedback that people give us. And you're right. We do this together and we have a nice chemistry, but we're dear friends. And I think that's the real important part in all of this, is to find like-minded people and share your heart with them.
Yes. Thank you guys so much for listening. We hope you have a reflective end of your year as well. Think back over 2024 and think about all of the highlights and think about all of the things that you've learned. You know, something I recommend everyone tries, write down 3 to 5 to 7 highlights from 2024. And then I'd like you to circle the ones that you are responsible for. Like, what highlights are a result of your hard work and effort? Because I think it'll help you recognize how much of the work you are doing and to give yourself permission to pat yourself on the back. And if you need someone to give you permission, well, Denise and I are telling you, pat yourself on the back. Have a great rest of your holiday season, everyone. And remember, as always, to show up, do great work, and share your light.
Take care. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.